At its height, the Roman Empire looked unstoppable. It was one of the largest political systems the world had ever seen, stretching from the deserts of Egypt to the rainy edges of Britain, from Spain to the borders of modern Iraq. Its armies crushed enemies, its bureaucracy governed millions, and its roads, laws, and cities shaped civilization itself. To anyone living at the time, Rome felt eternal. Imagine standing in the Forum of Rome at its peak. Marble temples shimmer in the sun. Senators argue policy. Soldiers return from distant wars, speaking languages you've never heard. Grain from Egypt feeds the population. Gold from Spain fills the treasury. Rome is not just a city, it is the center of the known world. For the average Roman citizen, collapse is unthinkable. Empires fall, but not this one. Yet today, Rome exists only in ruins and history books. So what went wrong? Did Rome face an enemy too powerful to defeat? Was it destroyed by corruption from within? Or did it collapse simply because it grew too large to control? The truth is more complicated and far more interesting. Rome didn't fall in a single dramatic moment. Its collapse unfolded slowly over centuries. And to understand how it ended, we first need to look at how it began. Rome was not always an empire. For centuries it functioned as a republic, a system that replaced an earlier monarchy and promised shared governance. But as Rome expanded, cracks appeared. Managing a growing territory demanded stronger, more centralized authority. The Roman Republic was built for a city, not a continent. Decisions required debate. Generals needed approval. But when armies marched thousands of miles away, delays became deadly. Power slowly shifted away from institutions and toward individuals. One man stepped forward to fill that role, Julius Caesar. By the mid-1st century BCE, Caesar had become Rome's most successful general and its most popular political figure. His military victories brought him power, loyalty, and fame, and eventually, the title of dictator for life. But Caesar had no intention of giving that power back. Caesar didn't just win battles, he inspired devotion. His soldiers followed him personally, not Rome. Tiet loyalty terrified the Senate. Rome's elite feared what he was becoming, so they murdered him. Rather than saving the Republic, Caesar's assassination shattered it. Civil wars erupted as rival factions fought for control. And when the dust settled, Caesar's adopted heir Octavian emerged victorious. Octavian would do what Caesar never fully accomplished. He ended Egypt's independence, defeated his rivals, and became the most powerful man in Rome. Instead of resisting him, the Senate surrendered. They granted him absolute authority and the name Augustus. Rome now had its first emperor. Ironically, the men who killed Caesar to prevent tyranny had created something far worse, a permanent monarchy. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome expanded aggressively. Conquest became policy. Europe, North Africa, and the Near East fell under Roman control. Italy remained the political heart, but the empire was divided into provinces, each governed with significant autonomy, as long as taxes were paid and rebellions didn't occur. For a time, it worked. The next 2 centuries became known as the Pax Romana, an era of relative peace and prosperity. Trade flourished, cities grew, Rome seemed stable, but peace has a cost. Armies grow complacent, leaders grow careless, and systems designed for war struggle in times of calm. But beneath the surface, pressure was building. Rome was traditional religion centered on a pantheon of gods led by Jupiter. Deeply connected to Greek mythology and filled with dramatic, often human-like deities, temples, rituals, and mythology were woven into Roman identity. Then came Christianity. Emerging from the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth and shaped by Jewish tradition, Christianity challenged Roman religious norms. Early Christians were often mistrusted and occasionally persecuted, though not always violently. This new faith rejected emperor worship, something Rome considered essential to unity. For decades, the faith remained small. A cautious emperor might have ignored it. But Rome soon had a different problem. In 177 CE, a 15-year-old boy named Commodus became emperor. His rule was impulsive, egotistical, and unstable. He obsessed over gladiator combat, staged public fights, and ruled by emotion rather than reason. His leadership damaged Rome's political culture and weakened its institutions. After 15 chaotic years, Commodus was assassinated. What followed was worse. Political breakdown and civil war. In 193 CE, the year of the 5 emperors, Rome descended into open chaos. Emperors were crowned, bribed their way into power, and murdered in rapid succession. Authority collapsed. As Rome fought itself, the provinces began to question their loyalty. Why remain loyal to a state that couldn't govern itself? Breakaway states formed. The Gallic empires split off in the west. In the east, Queen Zenobia established the Palmyrene Empire, controlling Egypt and much of the eastern Mediterranean. Rome was breaking apart. 3 strong emperors reversed the damage. Aurelian crushed the breakaway empires, rebuilt defenses, abandoned unmanageable territories, and stabilized the economy. Diocletian restructured administration and introduced regional governance, increasing control over distant provinces. And Constantine the Great transformed Rome forever. Constantine reorganized the army, reformed currency, expanded territory, and most importantly, embraced Christianity. With the emperor's conversion, the religion surged into power. By the time Constantine died in 337 CE, Rome looked revitalized, but appearances were deceiving. Constantine's death reopened old wounds. His sons fought for control, civil wars returned, corruption spread, and Rome's borders grew weaker. Then came the Huns. As they swept westward, they displaced Gothic tribes, forcing them into Roman territory as refugees. Rome could have integrated them. Instead, corrupt officials exploited them. The Goths rebelled. What began as a migration crisis became a military disaster. Roman forces, overstretched and underfunded, struggled to respond. The countryside fell while elites hid behind city walls. The final split. After Emperor Theodosius I died in 395 CE, the empire split permanently. The Eastern Roman Empire, later called Byzantium, survived for another 1,000 years. The Western Roman Empire, centered on Rome itself, slowly collapsed. Barbarian invasions continued. Attila the Hun terrorized the borders. Territory was lost piece by piece. The Roman army was no longer dominant, often relying on mercenaries with little loyalty. In 476 CE, a Germanic king named Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, a teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus. Rome was finished, or was it? The empire that never truly died. While the Roman state disappeared in the West, its legacy lived on. The Roman Catholic Church, empowered by Constantine centuries earlier, filled the vacuum. Over the next 1,000 years, it became Europe's most powerful institution, shaping kings, laws, and culture. Rome fell as an empire, but not as an influence. Why, half of Rome lived for 1,000 more years. Rome did not fall everywhere at once. While the Western Roman Empire collapsed under constant invasion, economic decay, and political chaos, the eastern half told a very different story. Centered in Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, the Eastern Roman Empire remained wealthy, urbanized, and administratively strong. Its cities thrived on trade between Europe and Asia. Its bureaucracy collected taxes efficiently. Its army was professional, disciplined, and better funded. The East had something the West lacked: time and resources. It had fewer frontier pressures, richer cities, and a stronger tax base. Where the West relied on mercenaries, the East invested in institutions. To its people, this state was not Byzantine. It was simply Rome. The fact that one half survived proves something critical. Rome's fall was not inevitable. Collapse was not destiny. It was the result of choices. Money, taxes, and the slow suffocation of the empire. Empires do not run on glory, they run on money. For centuries, Rome's economy depended on conquest. War brought slaves. Slaves powered agriculture. Agriculture fed cities. Cities paid taxes. But once expansion slowed, the system faltered. Wars became defensive instead of profitable. The flow of slaves dried up. Productivity dropped. Tax burdens increased, especially on small farmers. To pay soldiers, emperors began debasing the currency, reducing silver content in coins. Inflation followed. Trust in money collapsed. Wealth concentrated in the hands of elites who avoided taxes, while the poor were squeezed harder each year. By the late empire, many citizens no longer felt protected by Rome, only exploited by it. When invaders came, some cities opened their gates. Rome no longer felt worth defending. When people stopped believing in the state, Rome's greatest strength was never its army. It was belief. Belief in Roman law, belief in Roman citizenship. Belief that being Roman meant something greater than oneself. But over time, that belief eroded. Citizens stopped serving out of duty and started serving for pay. Officials stopped governing and started extracting wealth. Emperors ruled for survival, not vision. People no longer asked, "How do we preserve Rome?" They asked, "How do I survive Rome?" Even Christianity, which would later preserve Roman culture, shifted loyalty away from the state and toward a higher authority. Rome still existed on paper, but in the hearts of its people it was already gone. The lesson that still matters: Rome's story is not ancient history, it is a warning. The Roman Empire did not fall because it lacked power. It fell because power replaced responsibility. It did not collapse because of outsiders. It collapsed because it failed to integrate them wisely. It did not die from invasion. It died from internal decay. Final expansion. Strong states require legitimacy. They require functioning institutions. They require leaders who govern, not exploit. When corruption becomes normal, when short-term survival replaces long-term planning, when citizens lose faith in the system, collapse does not arrive suddenly. It arrives quietly, then all at once. Rome didn't fall in 476 CE. That was only the moment no one was left pretending. Rome fell when it lost its ability to govern itself, and once that happened, history was only waiting to catch up.